Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the January 20th, 2026 meeting of the Board of Education for Arlington Heights School District 25. Thank you to all of you joining us tonight. Before we begin, I want to share that our meetings are when the school board conducts its business and are open to the public. Because we are an elected governmental body, we can only take action by majority vote in a public meeting like this one. We welcome the public to listen and observe, and we have community input sections on the agenda if you have questions or comments on the business of the board. With that, I call the regular meeting to order. And Ms. O'Brien, if you could please call the roll.
Neerman?
Here.
Tranter?
Here.
Jogi?
Here.
Scapalato?
Here.
Michael?
Here.
Buchberger? Cerniglia?
Here. Thank you, Lana. Please stand if you are able for the Pledge of Allegiance. Well, as we always do, we reserve the first space on the agenda to recognize the notable accomplishments and service of District 25 students and staff. And we thank all of you for coming out tonight for this evening's recognitions, especially with the chilly weather. Tonight we're going to recognize student accomplishments in both music and basketball. We'll start with the middle school band and jazz band members who participated in the ILMEA District 7 Honor Festival. And I'll turn it over to Dr. K.
Thank you, President Scapalato. I'm excited to welcome up a couple band directors that are here this evening to recognize some special students. So starting with the three band directors, I will name them, and please come on up, and the microphone that you're not shy of, it will be ready for you. So starting with Mrs. Caroline Schneider, come on up. We have Caroline, we have Candy Horton, and Mr. Dana Berry. Oh, yeah. Oh, we'd love to. Yeah. Looks like we might do a presentation first, or are we going to talk? We're in deep thought here.
Okay. Well, there were students from Thomas and South who were part of the ILMEA festival this fall. And ILMEA stands for Illinois Music Educators Association. And every fall they have band festivals in the month of November. There's concert band and jazz. Students from all over Illinois are involved in this, where the district is broken up. The state is broken up into districts. We're in District 7, which goes basically from I-90 to the Wisconsin border. And students are, they audition by sending in a video in the month of, right around the end of September. And then those that are selected are mailed music, and they learn those parts, perfect everything, and then they appear at the festival itself. And it's on a Saturday. They rehearse all day, and then they have a concert in the afternoon. And there was a student from South, and there were students from Thomas. There were 4 for concert band and 1 for jazz band. The concert band festival was at Schaumburg High School on December 1. November. I'm having month problems. November 1, and then jazz was 2 weeks later. So, should we call the names of those students? Let's do it. Okay, so from Thomas, Anderson Christensen Fisher, tenor saxophone. Audrey Panico, trumpet. Caleb Nelson, trumpet. And Harshan Raj Kumar, tuba. And for jazz band, on piano, Io Shigefuji.
At South in band, we had Addie Daly on trombone. All right, and those are the ILMEA students. Congratulations, everyone.
Let's get a photo. Hop in. Let's get a photo. Board members, come around the table and join us in the photo. Our resident photographer, Mr. Harris, will capture.
Parent photos. Go ahead, go ahead, go ahead. All right, I think we're good.
All right, band, you kicked us off really well. We have a couple more recognitions this evening. We are going to move to, I believe, we are going to go to the South 8th grade girls basketball team. I have a feeling they're in the front row here. Well-coordinated group. And I didn't see the coach, but I am sure the coach was on the way. There he is. How are you, sir? I had a chance to see this at South when you guys were recognized last week, right before the long weekend. So I'm excited to also have you here. So this is great. Mr. Birdie, Coach Birdie, thanks for being here. I will give you the mic because I know you love microphones. Yes, yes.
All right.
And is Caitlin here too?
No. Excellent.
Then you it is.
All right. So we got a lot. I wrote about 15 pages today, so it'll be a couple minutes. But yeah. So no, it's not 15 pages. It's less than that. All right. First off, I'm hoping my voice will be okay. I just came from a wrestling meet, so if I start, losing my voice, it's because I was shouting too much about an hour and a half ago. But I think I'll be fine. All right. So first, I want to thank the school board for recognizing our season tonight. I'm Dan Birdie, the 8th grade coach of South Girls Basketball, and I'm excited to fill in our school board on what an amazing accomplishment this group put together in the 2025 season. Just a few things that they can boast about that is only their records. They are the only girls team in South history to win regional as both 7th and 8th graders, to win sectional as both 7th and 8th graders, and the only girls team in South history to win a state trophy as both 7th and 8th graders. So I want to give it up for them on that. I also did check with our South athletics historian, which is Dave Frittner. He tells me everything. So I asked him, can I call them the most accomplished basketball team in South school history? He was actually he was an assistant on the boys team that went to state as both 7th and 8th graders. They did 3rd, 4th, so he said, you get the designation. This is the most accomplished team in South basketball history. Okay. All right. So first off, I'm going to thank our parents of these students. They were, as usual, amazing fans, carpool coordinators, such an amazing support system for these athletes that they could really rely on. This team is successful because of what their parents sacrifice and do for them every day. I also want to give a thanks to our admin team over at South. In particular, he's in the back. I wanted to thank Steve Prorock for being there to do our medal ceremony at State. And also Steve just for being a great person to chat with about the basketball team and a good support system for me this year. So I really appreciate that. I also, of course, want to thank our admin team. They set a really great tone at our school, and they put the students first and allow us as teachers and coaches to lead, and with their support, which is not something every place has. So Steve, Sherry, Aubrey, thank you for that. All right. Also, our athletic directors, Kevin and Phil, it was a crazy scheduling year. They really adjusted a lot of things on the fly. We had some games that were canceled last minute, so I wanted to give them a shout out for doing a great job getting us enough games in where we were ready for the state tournament. I also want to give a shout out to my basketball coaching mentor, Scott McTagg. Mr. McTagg, he coached with me the prior 3 seasons, and he was with the program a decade before I got there. I learned a lot from him. Without him, our program would not be what it is. And of course, the most important person I need to thank outside of this wonderful team is my other person from our staff is Caitlin Sparlin. So I wanted to give her a shout out. Yeah. It was her first year as a head coach in the program where she coached the 7th grade and was my assistant. I coached the 8th grade and was her assistant. She was an awesome person to step into the program, a new coach, so amazing helping us out in the state tournament, really good person to bounce ideas off of. And we look at it as a program. We don't look at it as 2 separate teams. And she was great at pushing these girls, helping push me as a coach and just in general. And both teams, I feel like, were playing their best basketball at the end of the season, which is what we want. I also think that the girls appreciated, since I coached them for both 7th and 8th grade when they were a little frustrated with me, that they had the cool cousin that they could go talk to in Miss Sparlin instead of the grumpy uncle and Mr. Birdie. So wanted to say thanks for that. All right, and I'm also looking forward to what we can do over the next few years. And then, of course, as for this amazing team right here, last year when we were here, I associated the word pride with them. And I'm going to start by saying this year was not last year, though. This was not the dominant fairy tale that we had last year. We started out, things were a little rough. We blew a huge lead in our first game against a really good team. We were sitting at 2-3, and there was a lot of frustration. We had to look in the mirror. We had to have tough conversations. My 4 captains in particular, Mallory, Georgia, Eva, and Nisa, they were able to have really tough conversations, and we talked about how we needed a different approach, strategy, effort, and answer the question, how do we get to be as good as we know we are? This is a tough thing for 13 and 14-year-olds to do. These girls had a lot of different things going on in 2024 as a team, and I asked a lot of them, and when that bell rang, especially when we got to the month of November, they answered. We came out in November, we put a very decisive victory on the team that ended up finishing 2nd in state, and that was kind of the one where I kind of felt like they had it back, but they were not satisfied as a team, even though they beat a really great team that night. And then they got more than they even bargained for. We started to play really good basketball, and then things went even more off the skids. We had 3 major injuries in about 36 hours, and then a 4th one that came about 3-4 days later. So we had 5 days, we lost 4 key players, and suddenly we were a walking wounded on the verge of the state tournament. They could have said, well, it's not meant to be. They could have said that. And if pride was the word last year, then I think perseverance was the word this year. There were players with bench roles that needed to step up, and boy, did they step up. We started, even when we were shorthanded in the regular season, to beat some very good teams. And then some of our players started to heal, and they came back, and even though that was happening, we knew we still needed to persevere as a team. And here's the good thing about adversity, is when you're dealing with it all season, and when it comes up in those important times, you're ready for it. If you put in the work, and you have that perseverance, and I can tell you these girls put in the work, good things can happen. Our regional championship was the moment that proved that. We were down by 17 points in the 2nd quarter to our rivals, Thomas. I called timeout when we were down 15, and the calmness that these girls and determination they had in the huddle, it was shocking. Like, they were so mature as 13 and 14-year-olds. They had no fear. They didn't care about the deficit. We just talked about, let's get a few points back here, and they cut 17-7 by halftime, and you all took the lead in the 3rd quarter, and we never looked back, and you set history for our program, becoming the first girls to win regionals twice. At state, they played such a savvy game to win the quarterfinal and get another trophy. And though we came up short in that state semifinal, we ended up losing to a team that was undefeated to champion 2 years in a row. I talked with their coaches and a lot of their parents after the game, and they came up and they said, you were the only opponent that pushed us all year. We're the only ones that gave them a really good fight. And it helped ease the pain a little bit, even though we wanted the big prize. And then we saw the 2nd place team, who we beat, lose by more. So we're like, even though it says 3rd place on there, we feel like it's 2nd place overall. So, but you know what? We finished with a win. We turned adversity into accomplishment. So, ladies, and to our other teammates, this is what I'm going to ask of you. Use the lessons from this season about this tough and gratifying season as you go to high school, because there are players in this room and players who are not here tonight who are going to be impacting varsity games a lot sooner than you would think. And I promise you that road's going to be really tough, but you proved this year that you can thrive in toughness. So continue, dig back, think of these moments, think of that when you're pushing yourself as high school players. I am so proud of your perseverance. You showed that just because it doesn't go as planned, it does not mean you stop reaching for the stars. This is the most accomplished team in our school's history. They beat 2 of the top 4 teams in the state this year. They will be remembered by this coach for years and years to come as I look at their state trophies and think of them and remember their tenacity and their grit. So with that, to our school board, I present to you the regional and sectional champions of 2025 8th grade 4A third place finishers in the state of Illinois, the South Girls 8th grade basketball.
We have a small gift for them if you want to call them up by name.
Yes,
that'd
I
be
will
great.
call them up.
Thank you.
Yes, I got, which ones are here? Okay, just also recognize our ones who aren't here, so I know we have Kate Fisher, Milika Sprinska, Anissa Stanley, Joanna Kalergis, Mia Riggy, and Maddie Zimney, so I want to recognize them, and I'm going to call up these girls. So we'll start with Marley Camardella, Mallory Tosh, Georgia Hill, Gia Human, Madeline Searle, Kaylin Stevens, and Eva Babakwa. Yeah.
All right, and our final celebration and recognition this evening is another band event. I bet Candy Horton was hoping I'd do her twice in a row, but I made you wait to the bitter end. So Candy, come on up. We want to recognize the All-Illinois Junior Band members. Congratulations to them, and thank you for being here.
Thank you. Can I give you this? Yes. Wonderful. All right. And I think, yes. There. Oh, here it is. All right. I want to thank the board for giving us the opportunity to honor these kids tonight, from the band to the sports and everything else. It really is just a tremendous honor for to have that recognition. So thank you all for inviting us here tonight. We are so proud of our Thomas Band students who achieved a spot in state for band. The All-Illinois Junior Honor Band is made up of students from all over the state of Illinois. Students worked hard over the summer and the beginning of the school year to prepare 2 selections plus a scale that they recorded and submitted for consideration. They were judged by a panel of professional musicians and educators at the highest level. Hundreds of students from all corners of the state of Illinois tried out for a coveted spot in this 82-piece band. The achievement these students made is incredible and is a result of their careful and diligent work on their instruments, years in the making, all the way since 5th grade. The material they prepared for this was very challenging, and I know each one of these fine musicians spent countless hours in the practice room honing their skills and getting feedback from their band teacher and their private lesson teachers, looking for ways of bringing their playing to the next level. Their hard work and patience and determination was rewarded. The AIJB event happened this past Friday and Saturday at the University of Illinois. Students worked in rehearsals with the inspiring Chris Gleason, who's a master clinician and teacher of the year from the state of Wisconsin, alongside other student musicians, the best of the best in the state. The event culminated in an amazing performance at the great Krannert Center Hall on the university campus. Our student musicians are three. Momoko Suzuki played clarinet, Caleb Nelson played trumpet, and Harshan Rajkumar Anusha, he made an extra special thing. He made first chair tuba, which means he made the top spot in the state of Illinois in middle school tuba, and that's just really awesome. So congratulations to these three amazing musicians. Why don't you come on up? And I think there's a video here.
Let's get a final photo. Board one more time. This is as close as I'm going to get to the All-Illinois Junior Band. All right, at this time, as we get settled, I'm not trying to kick anybody out, but this is that great opportunity. If you're interested in leaving now that the celebrations are over, this is a good opportunity to find your way to the exit. Thanks for coming out tonight. Be safe outside. I hear it's still cold, but some of the basketball players came in shorts. Impressive move. Have a wonderful evening. Be safe. Thank you. Congrats.
We'll continue on, and tonight we have a presentation on our agenda, and we're pleased to welcome Jason Coyle from Baker Tilly, who will present the results from the 2024-2025 audit. Welcome, Mr. Coyle.
Thank you. Thank you. All right, very good. All right, well, good evening. Good to be with you. Jason Coyle, principal with Baker Tilly. Going to touch on a few points related to your audit for the fiscal year ended June 30th, 2025. So first of all, I want to thank Stacy and her team for everything they do for the audit. The audit's obviously a lot of work for us, but also a lot of work for her and her team, and they have day jobs, and then we come in and ask them for a whole lot of extra information, so I always appreciate that, and the work that they provide to make the audit go smoothly for us. You do issue what's known as an ACFR, or Annual Comprehensive Financial Report, and what that is a very comprehensive, as the name suggests, financial statements, and goes above and beyond what you're required to do under state law. So I always like to congratulate boards that go above and beyond and provide additional financial information, obviously both to yourselves, but also to the community, bondholders, things like that. In particular, I like to point out in these statements in the back, there's a section called the statistical section, which shows 10 years worth of historical information. I won't go over that section tonight, but I always find it to be sometimes the most interesting because it shows trend information for the district over the last 10 years. Our opinion on the financial statements, which is what you hire us for, is an unqualified or unmodified opinion. That's the only 3 pages in this multi-page report that is from our firm. The rest is your financial information. And what that opinion means is that somebody could pick up the financial statements and rely on the information that's in your financial statements is accurate in all material respects. And so, again, unmodified or unqualified opinion, the highest level of assurance we can give over your financial information. Right after our opinion on page, they're in Roman numerals now, so it's a little hard. In Roman numeral 19, I think it is, if I'm reading it right, is a section called the management's discussion and analysis. And you don't necessarily need to flip to all these different pages, but I do want to point out a couple things. And so this section, the management's discussion and analysis, is something that I encourage all governing body members to at least read. I know you might not want to read, a 150-page financial statement, but the MD&A does a nice job of summarizing what went on during the year. In particular, on Roman numeral page 23, you'll see some easy-to-read pie charts, for example, of where your revenues are coming from and where your expenditures are going. For example, you'll see 69% of your revenues come in the form of taxes. And particularly when you're in Cook County, and Cook County delays getting property taxes out, that has a big impact on you when so much of your revenue comes in the form of property taxes. And then you could see, obviously, in the pie chart, your expenditures, obviously, a large percentage of your expenditures goes directly to the caring and instruction of the students. Getting into the kind of meat and potatoes of the financial statements on page 1 is the statement of net position. And this is where we take all of the funds of the district and collapse them down into one column. And then we put on information there that you don't typically talk about on a month-to-month basis, things like your long-term debt and your capital assets, which is the investments in your buildings and equipment and things like that. And then we also put on other long-term liabilities that sometimes we hear about in the news, your long-term pension liabilities, always a hot topic in Illinois. And so most of the pension liabilities that you have are actually held by the state of Illinois. For TRS, they hold most of that liability. You just have a small liability. And then you have IMRF, which is your other pension plan. And then you have some other post-employment benefits in there as well. And so those totaled about $20 million as of the end of fiscal year 25. Even though you're making your annual required contributions to all those funds, that liability continues to exist and likely will for a long time. Yeah, but nonetheless, your unrestricted net position, which is the number at the very bottom of that page, continues to be positive. So even after you put on all of these long-term liabilities that you don't normally think about, you still have a positive net position, which is a great position to be in. Page 6 gets into the revenues and expenditures of the funds that you're probably more accustomed to seeing on a regular basis. The first column is called your general fund, and this is made up of your education fund, your working cash fund, and your tort fund combined. For reporting purposes, we have to show that as one fund. It is broken out later on in the report. You could see all 3 of them. But this is kind of your primary operating fund. That fund did see a decrease in fund balance for the year of about $1.7 million. And overall, your fund saw a decrease of about $7.2 million. Most of that was driven by this expenditures in your capital improvements fund. Capital projects fund, as you're making investments back into your buildings and equipment and things like that. One of the ratios that I always like to look at is when we look at just your education fund, your primary operating fund, what's the ratio of your fund balance to your expenditures for the year? And I always like to take out the on behalf payment that the state makes to TRS on your behalf that we record in here. So if you take that out and you just look at the education fund, you're at about 59%, which means you could go a little over a half a year theoretically without collecting any revenues in your education fund and still pay your bills. Obviously, you wouldn't want to be in that position, but it just gives you an idea of kind of what your reserves are, particularly when like Cook County is late in making payments. It means you have a little bit of flexibility in your fund balance to hopefully continue to operate appropriately. And that's really all I was going to touch on in the financial statements themselves. There's a lot of detail in the financial statements. After the primary financial statements, there's notes to the financial statements, which has a lot of detailed information about some of the numbers. And then after that, we get into all the budget to actual for all of the different funds that you have, which can be very helpful because it shows, where did you plan to be with the budget, what actually happened, and then what happened in the prior year, all on one page. And so, again, you could spend a lot of time digging into that, and it can provide some, insightful information for you. We also do another audit called the single audit, which relates to your federal funding. We're still finalizing that. Hopefully this week, the federal government unfortunately delayed the issuance of some information we needed in order to finalize that. But we tested one major program, as they call it, which is one of your grants. I'm happy to say we didn't have any findings on that grant. So that's a lot of work. Obviously, the federal government has a lot of rules on how you spend all the federal funding that you get. I'm happy to say we didn't find anything that deviated from all those rules you have to follow. So congratulations in that once again. The other thing we do during the audit is we take a look at the internal controls or checks and balances that you have here. We don't provide an opinion on that, but to the extent that there are anything that comes that rises to the surface, if you will, that we want to communicate to you for recommendations for improvement, we do that and put that in a letter to you. Happy to say now for many years in a row, we haven't had anything that rose to the level of needing to be reported. Your check, which basically means your checks and balances are operating effectively for the big areas that we take a look at, AP, payroll, things like that. So again, we don't provide an opinion on that, but we do look at that because it helps us evaluate where the risks might be in your operations, and we can develop audited tests around that then. So I know that was fairly brief. But I wanted to touch on just a few things and wanted to then see if you had any questions I could answer for you.
Any questions from the board for Mr. Coyle? All right. Well, seeing none, thank
Okay.
you for joining us.
Yeah, thank you.
All right. Good to see you. Thank you.
Yeah, happy to be here.
And we should also, yes, say a thank you to Stacy and her team. There were a lot of congratulations in what you shared with us, Mr. Coyle, so thank you, Stacy, for all your hard work and your team. We're going to move on now to communication from district partners, and first we have a report from the PTA. I think, Melissa, you have that?
Yes. Aaron Lakomsky, our president of the Arlington Heights Council of PTAs, sent in this report. Happy New Year from the Arlington Heights Council of PTAs. Local units are kicking it in gear after a well-deserved break. Many schools this time of year pull together the ever-popular chess clubs and book clubs for students. Parent events are also in full swing with a number of bingo and trivia nights booked. As local units reflect on the world in our community, several have taken on gift card drives, food drives, and used toy drives run by the students, and have focused on upcycling school spiritware to students in need. Council members took no rest pulling off the very first 5th grade mixer events for both Thomas Middle School and South Middle School over break. Participation exceeded our wildest expectations with 180 students from South and 155 students from Thomas, more than half the expected incoming classes. Between high-five sports, ping pong, crafts, games, and snacks, there was something for everyone, and feedback has been very positive. I was there, it was awesome. Good job. We're looking forward to the next event in April. Many thanks to the amazing committee and school reps leading the way. Springtime is scholarship time for the Arlington Heights Council of PTAs. You will all receive an email with links to the 3 types of awards being offered this year from the council. This year, we will award a whopping $18,000 to former School District 25 students. Mark your calendar for the May 1st Scholarship Award Breakfast. held right here in the Dunton building, which is always an amazing event. So we're looking forward to that. Thank you so much, Aaron, for sending in this report.
Great, thank you, Melissa. And then we have our ABC 25 Foundation report, and I think Dr. K, you've got that one.
Thank you, President Scapolato. On behalf of Gina Faso and the ABC 25 leadership team, I'm happy to give their report. Yesterday on MLK Day, they hosted the ABC 25 anti-bullying campaign and brought in a vendor, Box Out Bullying, to put on 3 age-appropriate shows for lower and upper elementary and 1 separate one for middle school students, which was open and free to all families throughout the school district. This year, ABC 25 is set to give back a recent record, this is no joke, $67,000 in teacher and school grants and programs like what we had yesterday, the anti-bullying program. All of the funds that ABC 25 raises go directly to the school district in support of innovation and creativity. The continued support through membership, participating in their event, as well as joining us for our big fundraiser, a big plug, March 15th, the ABC 25 for Education at Top Golf in Schaumburg, helps us to raise and continue to raise and support the efforts of innovation and creativity throughout the school district. That said, ticket sales for Top Golf event are open. Please consider joining us. This is how we are able to continue our mission to make a better community for the students of Arlington Heights School District 25. On behalf of ABC 25, Gina Faso. Thank you.
Thank you to Gina, and thank you, Dr. K. All right, now we're ready to move to the ATA report. Allison Berg, welcome back. Good to see you here.
Allison Berg in the flesh. All right, good evening, everybody. Here we go. Thanks for allowing me the opportunity to have a few moments to share what's going on around the district. Children at, there they are, Windsor have been having an awesome time back from winter break, growing their teamwork skills in PE and playing basketball. Shown are some photos of the kids working on passing and dribbling relays in small groups. During the first week back to school, 8th grade ELA students at South Middle School reflected on who they are as individuals. Students brainstormed ideas about what areas within themselves they would like to grow and change. They journaled about life situations that forced them to persevere. Classes read articles that defined how grit plays a role in success in school and in life. Students participated in a team building challenge that required grit, and they rose to the occasion. To culminate these lessons, students were given a choice to create their own quote or find a quote that resonated with them. The students wrote a short essay explaining why their quote was significant and how it will impact their life. Then students designed their quotes. The classroom walls are filled with inspiration and motivation, and there are some of them right there. They are ready for 2026. Some first graders in reading intervention, James and others, are using plastic mesh to practice their sight words. There's a few pictures of our friends there. Thomas has a Pokemon club. I have some students who would have loved that. Over 30 students come to the club every other week to trade, battle, and just talk about all things Pokemon. And there they are. 5th graders at Windsor, oh no, I skipped one, sorry. Compare Contrast Art Gallery Walk. Miss Fraser's class over at Olive is using the HMH reading series to take Compare Contrast, this skill of Compare Contrast to the next level. She teamed up with Mr. DeMarco, their art teacher, and Ms. Durick, their instructional coach, to look at artwork, to take an art walk and do some compare contrast. The students participated in an art gallery walk where they engaged in lively discussions, brainstormed visual details, identified similarities and differences among various artworks. It was an exciting experience, and it tied right with our reading program, lays a good, strong foundation for future writing and critical thinking skills, so a really nice way for everyone to get involved with that. And there's another picture of the students looking at the artwork and taking notes, which is super cool. 5th graders at Windsor School, I've reported on this before, have a connection to Fudabukai. Ms. Pinsky's been doing it for years, actually. She has a buddy class over at Fudabukai, and our students went over there for a day with the Fudabukai students. It's an awesome opportunity for our students to learn about, their culture and to have a nice buddy experience, and there's a couple of pictures from their trip. Actually, they just went on Friday. Also on Friday at Windsor School, thanks to Ms. Pinsky once again, she is connected to the Bears, if you do or do not know this. She happens to be a personal fan of the Bear Man. There he is. I like that they had their readers on while they were checking in the front office. But up pulls this car with the Bears on the side, and out comes Bear Man. And he did come to school on Friday before the big Bears game, which was super exciting for all of us teachers, a really nice surprise for us and for our students. And there's just a picture of our staff all decked out in bears with the Bear Man, which was awesome. We were so, so close. Finally, ATA is looking forward to meeting with administration and the board later this week to do some interest-based bargaining training to get ready for contract negotiations. We're looking forward to getting the ball rolling and for some great collaboration. So thanks, guys. Have a good night. Yeah.
Thank you, Allison. Now is the time on our agenda what we set aside for community input. If a member of the public wishes to address any item on tonight's agenda, please complete one of the blue forms provided at the table by the door and hand the card to Lana O'Brien. We ask that you please note on the card if you wish to speak now at the first community input opportunity, or if you wish to speak later should we have a second community input opportunity. We don't have any blue slips at this time, so we'll continue on. We're at the board communications portion of the agenda. So I'll look around to my colleagues. What do you have to share for this month for board member updates? Who wants to start?
Mr. President,
Yes, Deb, please.
January being the start of a new calendar year and now almost officially halfway through the school year, wanted to represent deep appreciation for the fact that I was afforded an opportunity to go the week before winter break to Olive Mary Stitt, where my heart is, and assist with their annual tradition of principal reading the holiday books and assisting with each grade level as they did a craft. And for quite a while now, the craft has been creating cards for those at the local food pantry. So helping the kids create cards that would go to the local food pantry and really discussing with them what it means to be a family in need, and hearing the administration read stories about religions from around the world was just a great way to go into winter break. So it continues to remind me how thoughtful all of our admin are at each of the buildings and how each of the schools, bless you, continues to develop empathy and generosity within the district community. And then just quickly wanted to share as well, had the privilege for the first time attending the annual Dr. Martin Luther King Memorial Gathering last weekend with Dr. Kay, Melissa, Kevin, Greg, led by our state rep, Mary Beth Canty. She did a fabulous job of introducing speakers and captivating the audience. Illinois Supreme Court Justice Elizabeth Rockford, Tony Preckwinkle, the founder, Reverend Clyde Brooks, and many, many others. But they all shared messages that really resonated with myself, and I'm sure a majority of the crowd as well. Just the importance of diversity, equity, and inclusion, and how we still have, as a community and as a country, so much growth to continue to work towards. So supporting students and families and working at a more equitable future. So it was a very insightful evening. I appreciated being there.
Thank you, Deb. Other updates from board members?
Mr. President,
Yes, Anisha.
I'll chime in. As a school board member, I'll add on to the Martin Luther King sentiments that my friend Deb shared. It's great to see our students from students from other school districts and our fellow, the students of our fellow peers from our students around the state and the country. So yesterday for Martin Luther King Day, I was at an event where students from the Oakland Unified School District presented their oratory skills to commemorate how Dr. King used his voice for good. And while I was watching them, I was thinking of our own very skilled students right here in District 25 and the talented students we have in our classrooms and all the programs and the presentations. And just recently we saw at our board meeting how our speech club is so award-winning. So it was really great to see how our students are kind of neck and neck out there so skilled with other students around the country. And talking about just seeing our students with other students, a couple of weekends ago, I got to be at South Middle School at the Science Olympiad competition at University of Chicago. And our students did an incredible job. And a big thanks to educators like Mrs. Marisek and many community volunteers and parents who coach students to compete in these really complex things, which I am just privileged to observe. I don't think I could be a Science Olympiad, kind of being in these build events and competitions like hovercraft and thermodynamics, and they're doing incredible things, and so happy and excited to be there. And study events like anatomy and physiology, like all very complicated things. And while the students were there, because these students, you have to understand, they go there, they leave their homes probably about 6 a.m. They get to these spaces like University of Chicago by 7, and then they're there the whole day till 7 p.m. where there's award ceremony. So they're there the whole day, along with our educators, along with the parents and the volunteers. So it's a full day. So while they're there, these students got to, get to check out University of Chicago as a campus as well. So all very impressive. I got to check it out too, so a little too late for me, but I'm really excited for these students. So kudos to all our students and all these extracurricular activities that are going on across our district.
Great. Thank you, Anisha. Any other updates? Okay, then we'll continue on to our legislative report. Kevin?
Thank you, Mr. President. Being that the holidays have just passed, there's really not a lot new to report in state legislation. So I'm just going to quickly share that the EdRed legislative dinner will be taking place this coming Monday, January 26th at Stevenson High School. I will be in attendance along with a few other members of our team. And then the next regular EdRed meeting will be held via Zoom on Friday, February 13th at 1:30 p.m., which I also plan to attend, so I will have more to share next month.
Great, thank you, Kevin. All right, and then we're at the IASB COSPA report. Anisha?
Yeah, thank you. With ISB, as you know, they're doing their first member-driven strategic plan, and I'm really excited about this, and they've invited board members from across the state to participate, so I will be participating in a focus group on behalf of our board on February 12th at 6 p.m. So I'll be part of this focus group. So I'm looking forward to kind of share perspectives, answer questions for this strategic planning kind of research group. So that's the first thing that's happening. And the second thing is an invitation to everybody across all board members for ISB's Advocacy Day in Springfield. And that's happening on March 24th. So look in your inboxes if you're interested. I went with EdRed, and that was really remarkable. I believe for ISB, this may be it's a kind of a newer initiative. And so March 24th, if anybody wants to go, be sure you put in your application for that, because it's really interesting to learn what we do locally. It's important for us to connect it to our state legislation and then to federal. So there is definitely a thread there. So it'd be great to participate. So I'm going to look at my own calendar for that day, for March 24th. And then it's already time for us to think about if our district would like to put in a proposal for the ISB panel at the conference. And so I'm looking to my good colleagues here to see what they would like to present on. So if you have ideas, let us know. We could take the band back out to the conference. We have presented many, many times. We're pros now. People come, they flock to our presentations. No, I'm kidding. But March 15th is the deadline. And so I'm thinking about ideas. I'd love to hear your ideas about different things, because there's a lot of great things that we do in our district that we can share. And actually, it's been great because the things that we do, both our administrators in the buildings and us as a board, folks do learn from us and ask us questions, send us emails. So from the last presentation we did, I think we've been helping other districts who are kind of taking from us and have sent us follow-up emails. So we're so happy to help out. So definitely let's think about what we're going to present on this time. So March 15th is that deadline, so help me not let it slip away. So I'm thinking. So by March 1st, we will hopefully put in some kind of proposal in this time too. So thank you, Mr. President.
Yes, thank you, Anisha. All right, we'll move on to NSSEO. And Liz, please.
All right, thank you. So the NSSEO Governing Board takes January off, so I've had a month off. So not a formal report. I will report back next month, but I would like you to note the invitation to the 11th Annual Winter Wonderland, which is at Sunrise Lake. It's on Saturday, January 31st. You're all invited with your families. I do not think there will be any ice fishing, Dr. K, but they do promise animals, so there may be something else, you know, for you to be a hero again. But yeah, animals, winter crafts, snack, weather permitting winter activities. So please consider coming with your families to that event.
Great. Thank you, Liz.
Maybe it's chickens is a very popular one. I don't really know what the winter animals are going to be.
Okay.
I'll report back in February though.
All right, thank you, Liz. We're now at the consent agenda, and this is an action item. Can I have a motion, please?
Mr. President.
Yes, Kevin.
I recommend that the Board of Education approve those items on the consent agenda as follows. A, personnel report and addendum to personnel report. B, invoices. C, regular and closed session meeting minutes of December 16th, 2025. D, board bills.
Thank you, Kevin. A second, please. I'll second. Thank you, Anisha. Lana, if you could please call the vote.
Tranter,
Yes.
Jogi,
Yes.
Scapalato,
Yes.
Michael,
Yes.
Buchberger,
Yes.
Cerniglia,
Yes.
Neerman.
Yes.
Thank you, Lana. The motion carries 7-0. And that'll bring us to the business and finance section of the agenda. We have an action item for the 2026 ISBE School Maintenance Project Grant. Can I have a motion, please?
Mr. President.
Yes, Kevin.
I recommend that the Board of Education approve the 2026 school maintenance grant as presented.
Thank you. A second, please.
Second?
Thank you, Anisha. And Stacy, we'll turn to you. Learn more about the project grants.
This is an annual grant that, or at least has been for the last number of years, that the state opens up and requires board approval. It's a match. It's limited to $50,000 reimbursement by the state. We have to at least match that, but we always propose a project that we already have planned that's part of our capital project, so it's not something new. It's something that will offset the cost. In this case, we're proposing it's to help offset the cost of the fire alarm system, I believe, at South Middle School. But it does require board approval, so we can put the date of the meeting the board approved it into the grant.
Thank you, Stacy. Any questions? All right. Seeing no questions, Alana, if you could please call the vote.
Jogi,
Yes.
Scapalato,
Yes.
Michael,
Yes.
Buchberger,
Yes.
Cerniglia,
Yes.
Neerman,
Yes.
Tranter.
Yes.
Thank you, Lana. The motion carries 7-0. We're going to continue now to facilities management. We have an action item for the 10-year life safety survey, which was presented at the December meeting. So can I have a motion, please?
Mr. President.
Yes, Kevin.
I recommend that the Board of Education approve District 25's 10-year life safety survey and authorize its submission to the Illinois State Board of Education.
Thank you, Kevin. A second, please.
Second?
Thank you, Anisha. And are we wait? Yeah. Okay. He's And we welcome Ryan Schultz to the board table. Thank you, Ryan, for being here. And so this is presented at the December meeting, so I think, Ryan, we're just asking if you have anything further. That's what it was not presented at the December meeting, and we are anxious to hear about it right now.
Yes, it was. So again, this is just the 10-year, sorry, are you ready? Is it? This is the 10-year life safety study that was completed by our architect. It does need to be submitted to Iowa, so we're just looking for approval of that. A number of the projects are incorporated for the 2026 projects, so we will incorporate those into the capital projects, and the other ones will be presented in, excuse me, future years. So again, just looking for the approval of the forms to get submitted into IWAS so ISBE can have it in the system and track it accordingly.
Great, thank you, Ryan. Any questions for Ryan on this item? All right, seeing none, Lana, when you're ready, if you could please call the vote.
Scapalato,
Yes.
Michael,
Yes.
Buchberger,
Yes.
Cerniglia,
Yes.
Neerman,
Yes.
Tranter,
Yes.
Jogi.
Yes.
Thank you, Lana. The motion carries 7-0. And our next item is also an action item for the 2026 capital projects, which I believe was presented at the December meeting. So, can I have a motion, please?
Mr. President,
Yes, Kevin.
I recommend that the Board of Education approve the 2026 capital projects as presented and authorize administration to engage design and pre-construction services.
Thank you, Kevin. A second, please.
Second.
Thank you, Anisha. And Ryan?
Again, these are the intended projects for 2026 that we're working on with the architect and engineer to get design in that going on, primarily for Minor, Thomas, Windsor, some mechanical, lighting, ceilings, those types of replacements are the main things. I do have an allowance in here right now for the life safety improvements as well to carry money. So we're looking to blend those into the first year projects, into these projects, so it's more economical. So we're working with our architect and engineer on that. But again, these are the projects we intend to complete in the summer of 2026. But again, we'll have another checkpoint again after we bid the projects. We'll bring the bids back to the board and make sure they're still in alignment with our projections and where we're at financially and things like that. So we do have another chance to look at the projects. But again, these are what we're intending to implement and looking to get another step forward with design and implementation.
Great. Thank you, Ryan. Any questions from the board? All right. Seeing none, Lana, if you could please call the vote.
Michael,
Yes.
Buchberger,
Yes.
Cerniglia,
Yes.
Neerman, Tranter,
Yes.
Jogi,
Yes.
Scapalato.
Yes. Thank you, Lana. The motion carries 7-0. And thank you, Ryan. We're now to the personnel and planning section of the agenda. And we have an information item for the staff satisfaction and engagement survey. So we welcome Kendra. And when you're ready, if you could please share with the board this year's survey presentation.
Yes, thank you for having me tonight. Tonight I'm going to present the Insightex Culture Survey. Maybe? I do, got it, okay. We give this survey annually to support our strategic plan, and we actually had an opportunity to present this data at our data dive day that we did with our strategic committee. So some of you have previewed this a little bit. As always, in personnel, we're looking to support the high quality staff goal, and this is a really important tool that we use to look at the culture of our buildings and how satisfied our staff are. So just to start with, how do we measure? So the online assessments given by the HumanX Corporation, it's called the Insightex survey. This year we had 467 respondents. And the nice thing about this survey is it includes a lot of different groups. So we include our certified staff along with our non-certified, our facilities team, our food service team, all the administrators, and everyone who works here at the district center. So it's a little more encompassing than the 5 essentials survey that we give. The 4 areas that are assessed are individual, team and department, administrator or supervisor, and then our whole organization. There's climate versus culture, and so the corporation really has us go through and talk to our community about the difference between climate, which is the way that people experience an organization, school, or team. So when people talk about what it's like to work somewhere, that's the climate. The culture is the team's identity, reflected in its mission, its vision, its values, and its norms. It is the collection of expectations and practices that guide and inform the actions of all the team members. And that's really what we're looking at when we look at Insightex data. So our Insightex actual data is here for you. And if you look at the right-hand side, that's the change from last year. So there's the mean score and the change. It is only considered statistically significant if it's greater than a 0.1% change. So although we saw a little bit of a dip in our data, very few of those data points are statistically significant. We also want to point out that a 4.0 on a 5-point scale is considered excellent. And if you look at our scores, they're all above a 4.0. And this growth is based on, we give this annually in the fall. Sorry. So the data is shown to us in this graphic where they consider the top right-hand corner, the red circle, the dream box, and that's where the highest satisfaction and the highest engagement occurs. Engagement is I enjoy what I get to do, and satisfaction is I want to do it here. So this is our actual data, and the data I'm showing you tonight is for our entire district. So it includes everyone, all 467 people who took the survey, but we do divide that survey out, and each building breaks down their own individual survey. We've already presented that to our building principals. They have access to all of their data, and they've likely at this point probably met with their building leadership teams to talk about that data. So looking at our district data, 94.63% of respondents reported feeling satisfied and engaged at work. So that's taking the circles around the red dream box and creating our highest echelon of staff. So it's like those who say I agree and I strongly agree in that category. 75.75% of respondents felt highly satisfied and highly engaged. So that's that upper right hand corner. The smaller number in the box is the score from the last survey. So you can see where we scored last survey versus where we scored this year. Okay. Staff satisfaction, we have looked at over a multitude of years. Starting back in October of 2019 was when we first gave this survey. You can see that our scores were down just a little bit this year from last year, from September of last year. The black band is what InsightX considers the education average. So they figure that from all of the school districts that they work with. And then they use significant research, and they work with some corporations to give us the corporate average. So the corporate average, according to their research, is 34%, while the district average, school average is 64%, and our district average this year is 75.75. So we are statistically a lot higher than what they see in their corporate clients and many other school districts. Okay. Next, we have some of the questions that we give to staff are focused on DEI+. This is our data from that survey, and the areas that we look at are transformative commitments, inclusion, equity, and diversity. And you can see that those dimensions continue to show positive growth with overall scores averaging 4.46 or above. Those questions, and I think I showed you this last year, just so you kind of get a feel for what staff are being asked in those DEI questions. These are a sample question from each of those areas. So for example, under transformative, the question is, in my department or team, we demonstrate quality efforts in building a culture of anti-bias, anti-hate, and anti-racism. Again, our numbers this year changed a little bit from last year, down just a smidge, but still nothing statistically significant. That is the data. I also included in your board packets the full report. So it should look like this packet. This is a really interesting document to dig into when you have some time. It'll show you specifically what staff were asked, so you can gauge exactly the question they were asked. And then it gives you the distribution, so you can see the number of staff who answered in each of those categories. So whether it was 1 or 10 people, it kind of helps you wrap your brain a little bit more around the data. So that's all in there, and I'm happy to answer any questions if you have any.
Thank you, Kendra. Any questions from the board?
Kendra, I have just a question that you may or may not consider relevant, or we may not have looked at in the past. But looking at the overall numbers by the district, they are impressive, and I'm proud to see where they are. But do we ever look by building or by school and see if one might be having issues where it might draw your attention to say we need to improve in a certain area, or do we just look at the average by the district?
We definitely look, one of the things I did was present this to what we call PAC, our Principal Advisory Council. So we didn't pull up individual building data at that point, but we made sure each building principal had their data and that we walked them through how to share that data with their staff. The first step most of them take is to meet with their BLT team, and then separately Brian and I met to talk through a little bit of the data by each group, including facilities and food service, and so that we had a grasp on baseline where we have been and where we are now to make sure we're not missing anything. Yeah.
A follow-up question to that. So when you're having these conversations, does it get highlighted as to, there was a dip, right? There was 75%, and then there was that 80% last year. So is there explanation, then you don't have to share them here, but is there an understanding of why there is that dip? Is there explanations to that?
So one of the graphs I didn't include, but I think I included in your packet. If not, I can easily get it to you. The company also gives you a PowerPoint presentation. And one of the features that they show, and one that we share with the principals, are your highest dimensions. So it gives you your top, and I shared this at strategic planning as well. It'll give you your top items and how you scored, and then it gives you your bottom items and how you score. And as a team, we do a deep dive into those because those are very specific as to why some of our numbers are higher than they were last year and why they are lower. And then we've done some goal setting around what we would do to look at those numbers. So one of the things we did here at Dunton was had a full Dunton staff meeting for the people that we work with here, and we've done some future planning and goal setting around how to ensure our culture continues to grow and improve. You can actually see the posters in our lounge in there with some of the work that we did together.
And so it seems like there's other tools you use besides HumanX to gauge culture and growth in culture.
We do. One, primarily, that the buildings use is 5 Essentials, which we shared the data again at strategic planning with you. And then we've done some surveying of staff here and then activities that bring out some of those topics as we work together. And the building leadership teams do the same.
And would you say that there's good, like does the staff or the district feel that HumanX is a good tool that we should continue to use? And is there spaces where there's open-ended questions so that staff can share something that a question may not have asked?
Yes. We have gotten feedback from the ATA that some of the questions can be redundant, and staff are confused at who, when they say something about leadership. Does that mean a coach, a building principal, a district administrator, a board member? What are they really pointing to? We've talked extensively with HumanX about this, and their perception of that, it's not the first time they've gotten that feedback, is it doesn't really matter, because no matter who you're thinking of, if you don't feel like you have strong leadership or whatever the question might be, it's probably an example of a cultural problem no matter what level it's being pointed at. Yeah. So they told us not to get into the weeds too much with that. But we have talked about discontinuing this survey. We've talked with our principal team about what kind of information are we getting from this. But in the process of going through strategic planning this year, we just felt it was too valuable. Perry, who leads our strategic planning, really appreciated having this data. So we discontinued our 3-year contract this year, and we went to a 1-year contract to feel it out, and we'll be discussing whether we do it following this year or not.
Yeah, I think that's a great internal conversation because, just putting my researcher hat on, like sometimes the surveys may not bring out all the information that one needs, right? Because it depends on, is the question specific to the responder? And so if the tool, it's a great internal question, conversation that you're having, and I look forward to hear the update.
Yeah, I appreciate the question, and I appreciate you foreshadowing. We have had a number of conversations about, do we have an interest in continuing this contract? So the foreshadowing is we didn't continue the multi-year. We continued the 1 year in order to use this data for the strategic planning refresh. I could see a future where this tool goes away.
Yeah.
We will want to replace it with something.
Yeah.
That decision obviously has not been made yet, but we have had a number of conversations about, has this run its course? Do we try something different to get at culture and climate?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, thank you. Thanks for sharing. And I've been reading about HumanX, and I know the company has a book out, and so I've looked through the book as well. So it is interesting. It's all about the tool. So thank you.
They're actually they've been trying to get approved for, there's other tools you can use now in place of 5 Essentials, and they weren't approved the first go around, but they were retrying to get approved. There's certain qualities the survey has to have to meet that, and this one wasn't one of those yet. So there are other tools out there that we know have been approved by 5 Essentials that we certainly could look at.
Because it's definitely really important, right? Culture and climate being so important to gauge. So thanks for that internal work. Thank you.
Other comments? Yes, Kevin.
Thank you. Thanks, Kendra. Just a quick question. You mentioned 467 total respondents. Do you happen to know about what percentage of the total staff that is?
I knew somebody was going to ask me that. When we count total staff, and we mean T-shirts on backs, it's around 900. But that's every single soul that works in here that doesn't, I don't know that everyone has access to a device that they would have gotten the survey. I think we could do better. I think we could definitely, I don't know, Brian, do you have an exact number you quote for staff? Maybe I'm way off.
No, I think 900 is a good estimate, and so I think we're over 50%, but it's definitely a lot of room for improvement to get more feedback.
Yeah.
And then a quick follow-up to that, and I don't expect you to know offhand, but I'm just curious how that number compares to previous years with the HumanX survey.
Very on par, very on par. We're always right around that same number. At least the 3 years I've looked at the data, we have been.
Thank you.
Yep.
And any other questions? I just have a comment, and I want to thank my board colleagues for bringing up those questions, and Kendra, for you highlighting what happens with the data that you shared with principals. They're taking it to building leadership teams. I mean, from this seat, that is the, besides the data, the most interesting part of the story is what you are doing with it next. And so thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
And it's encouraging that it's not going to sit on a shelf.
Yes.
All right. Well, so thank you.
Yeah.
All right. We'll continue on. And our next item is our next item is an action item for resolution for dismissal. Can I have a motion, please?
Mr. President.
Yes, Kevin.
I recommend that the Board of Education approve the resolution dismissal of substitute teacher Michelle Connolly as presented.
Thank you, Kevin. A second, please.
Second.
Thank you, Liz. And Lana, if you could please call the vote.
Buchberger,
Yes.
Cerniglia,
Yes.
Neerman,
Yes.
Tranter,
Yes.
Jogi,
Yes.
Scapalato,
Yes.
Michael.
Yes.
Thank you, Lana. The motion carries 7-0. We've now arrived at the superintendent's report, and first up is the update from our superintendent, Dr. Kay.
Thank you, President Scapalato. I stole this phrase from a colleague of mine, starting with an attitude of gratitude. Just wanted to say some thanks to a lot of board members that joined me at an event over the weekend that has already been mentioned, the MLK Remembrance Dinner. Phenomenal experience to see so many local, not only politicians, but a lot of just local leaders and a lot of future leaders. A lot of students from Harper College were present and they were recognized. So just a great event to talk about the diversity, equity, and inclusion strengths in this community and all that is being done to support the community here in Arlington Heights. So I appreciate you guys taking time out of your schedules to be there for that event, for those who are able to attend. I also want to recognize, again, the ABC 25 for putting on the Box Out Bullying event. I assume they feel like the numbers were not where they wanted for each of the presentations, but it was an extremely cold day on a day off, and I feel like each group presentation was extremely well done. So I'll be interested to see if we have an interest in bringing the presentation to each individual building. The prohibitive factor is going to be the overall cost of bringing this program, which is why ABC 25 wanted to fund the experience for one day to see if we could show interest and if we want to put that much money into the presentation. So while I thoroughly enjoyed it, I think we have to have some conversations about, is the investment worth the impact? So that decision has not been made yet, so I'm excited to talk to some people that were present for the presentation, adults and students, to see if we want to continue that at the building level. Whether that's whole district or elementary or middle school only. But for those who are present, just kudos to the ABC 25, a great event, and 45 minutes on point, start, finish. So Ursula, well done for each one of the presentations, really well done. And moving on to staying with some updates, the strategic plan refresh team is scheduled for Tuesday, January 27th. That's our vision retreat. And it is an open board meeting, so anybody that's interested in auditing the process and be present, you can feel free to join, or you can watch online. We will also record it and show it live while it's being done as well. For those who have participated, we'll be in this space the whole time. We won't be doing breakout groups. We'll be doing a whole group conversation. So I'm very much looking forward to the vision retreat, where we're going to see some documents and have some opportunities to digest and modify and change them. So I'm hoping everyone will stay healthy so we can get as many voices in that room as possible on Tuesday. Thanks also to Lana for all of the work that goes into making sure we are prepped for those vision retreats and the data retreat. While I think it's just going to be an easy thing to set up and be ready for, then we turn it into an open board meeting and things just, you know, exponentially increase in the amount of stuff that needs to get done and copied and prepared. So a big thanks to our tech team and Lana for making sure that we can run this seamlessly as an open board meeting and the vision retreat. So time is flying. So we're gonna have the vision retreat in January. We'll do the setting direction retreat in February, and then in March, the anticipation is right before spring break, we'll be doing a recommendation. So things are going to really happen quickly between now and right before spring break. So I'm very much looking forward to it. I think, again, working with Perry has been a delight. He was with us when we did this last time, so doing the refresh and having him come back has been, I think, a delightful process to see the next evolution of a strategic planning. So hopefully we will knock it out of the park again next week at the Vision Retreat. All right, moving into our Freedom of Information Act report, letter B. We had 12 different FOIAs over the past month, and they were all responded to, provided within the timeline required. Letter C, I am so excited that we are getting here to the student voice topic. So I'm just gonna cue it up with what we talked about at the last board meeting. So as we continue to advance our strategic plan in Arlington Heights, District 25, intentionally elevating student voice at Board of Education meetings directly supports our goals for student achievement, family and community partnerships, and a positive learning environment. Providing students with a platform to share their experiences builds ownership, agency, and civic engagement, strengthens transparency and trust between the board, families, and the community, and reinforces a culture where students feel valued, included, and connected to the decisions that shape their learning. I don't know if you caught it here tonight, but after we congratulated the South basketball team, they took it upon themselves to advocate for something this Friday, a cold day off. So this work reflects our commitment to preparing students not only academically, but as engaged contributors to their schools and community. So at the previous Board of Education meeting, board members expressed interest in discussing how student voice is currently represented at board meetings and exploring opportunities to enhance it in the future. So this agenda item is intended to facilitate an open and collaborative discussion among board members regarding their interests, priorities, and expectations related to student participation here at the board meetings. The purpose of bringing this topic forward is not to recommend a specific model or action at this time, but rather to engage in thoughtful dialogue and brainstorming. The discussion will help clarify how student voice might be incorporated in ways that align with board goals, district values, and the strategic plan, while being developmentally appropriate and meaningful to our students. So I'm going to get up and grab the microphone I have a poster board and some markers I'm going to use to capture some of the input. So just give me one moment and I'm going to transition. I have my Vanna White coming in as well, right here. Christopher, this would be great. Thank you so much. Perfect. I'm going to bring, that would be wonderful. Thank you, sir. All right, so at the last board meeting, I talked about not wanting to jump to solutions on how this can be done, but starting with what's our interest with having student voice here at the board table. So, knowing that it's really hard to stay focused on what are our interests, because many of us will jump quickly to solutions. I just want to make sure I'm capturing all the solutions while you mention them, even if I'm not wanting them to be brought up yet. So while you are sitting there right now, what I want you to think about is, what is the interest you have in allowing student voice to be present here at the board meeting? So let's openly share some interests we have.
I'll start. I guess I'll have a question. Can we expand it beyond?
Whoa,
I know,
third
we need
category.
a third.
Questions.
But we talk about inviting student voice to our board meetings. I'm wondering if there's another level that's inviting student voice into our operations, our wishes, our dreams, not necessarily what happens here in these board meetings, but including student voice in places we have, like for instance, with the strategic plan, we have students at those tables. With the principal interviews, we had students at those tables. Ways that we can involve students in kind of everyday and large-scale planning and dreaming. So it's, I don't.
You said you had a question.
It's kind of, can we expand voice at these board meetings to voice within the district?
So,
or are we only focused on
great question, great question. Now I get it.
Okay, thank
the
you.
topic is student voice connected to what I believed was here at the board table. So within this board meeting, you are now expanding student voice outside of the boardroom.
And does student voice at our board meetings have to take place at the board meeting? Or are we gathering student voices and presentations that we can bring to the meeting? So for instance, kids aren't sitting here at 9:30. I think there's a way to have that without kids in the meetings all the time.
So what I hear you saying is a solution. So you did. So one solution is it happens at the board meeting. Another is outside the board meeting. This is hard, and this is what happens in negotiations.
Yeah.
What is the interest we have in just including student voice?
Yeah. Go ahead.
I was just going to reiterate what you said in your opening is just student engagement and learning and engaging civically and also, getting a perspective that we don't have because we are not in the classrooms every day.
So I hear one is just the students themselves are engaged. Two is we get a perspective from students that we obviously can't contribute to. Any other interest in having student voice represented here?
I'll jump in with some interests. adding on to what Melissa said, as far as the civic engagement piece, almost like cultivating this pipeline of future future board members, and for them to be engaged in this process, to be like, oh, you know, wow, there is a voice, there is an importance, so that as they grow as our future leaders, that they're at our seats one day.
Love it. So a pipeline for future board members.
Dr. Kay?
Yeah.
Oh, go ahead.
I wanted to expand upon that, but if it represents what you're saying, I'll leave it. But I almost felt like another interest was just civic experience.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's a separate interest. One is cultivating future board members, another is just overall civic engagement.
Yes.
This might fall under item 2 that Melissa already mentioned of student perspective, but what I was thinking is, as a board, it gives us a better understanding of what it is that our students value, which I think will make us better informed to make decisions that impact our students. And also, what needs do the students identify in our district and in our individual schools?
So I captured student values and student needs can be shared here.
I'd like to also hear about student successes and celebrations, the things that our students want to celebrate and recognize.
So student successes and celebrations.
And almost to that end, like, you know, this, what we saw earlier today with you in the background, like this peer advocacy piece, right? And Allison does such a great job modeling it here as far as showcasing celebration in the schools, right? From possibly from a teacher perspective, it's also coming from a student perspective, but having students kind of model that in, and maybe that's what Liz is saying, in kind of from their perspective, what are they seeing that they want us to see, right? That's versus us kind of sharing their story. What is the story they want us to hear? And it could be, right, we always say, it could be these celebrations, but also these advocacy pieces and maybe these opportunities where they feel, hey, adults or board members, like, this is what we're doing great, and there's an opportunity here to do better. So kind of hearing from their lens, possibly opportunities, and we're not talking about snow days or no homework, but there may be some hidden gems that we can learn from our students.
I'm thinking a possible solution based on what Liz was saying, and correct me if I'm wrong. An opportunity, perhaps, for each of the buildings to vote in one individual and then for them to come and share at the board meeting, as Allison does, their successes, their concerns, their ideas, so their building students could share with them as our staff members share with Allison.
So a solution to get the voice here would be building representatives.
Mm-hmm.
Got it.
And then they're not sitting in an entire meeting, they could present early on.
So another solution is they stay the whole meeting.
Yeah, I think Deb was saying. Deb, were you saying stay the whole meeting? Stay.
I was kind of saying
portion.
the opposite.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Portion. So that.
So both are true.
Yeah.
So another solution is stay for portion of meeting.
For interest, I know that so many of our brilliant students have so many great ideas, some of which we get to hear at the strategic plan discussions. So just hearing novel, creative ideas to any issues we might be having.
So a big interest, obviously, is hearing student interests directly from them.
Yeah, not just their interests, but like solutions they may have, yeah, creative solutions.
This might be a combo here. How would we hear creative solutions? It would, to me, it implies that they're here, listening to topics being discussed, and then they're sharing solutions. That's what I'm hearing.
Possibly, if they're coming just for a presentation, not staying the whole meeting, possibly they review the agenda beforehand or something of that sort, or get focused on a specific topic that we might want to hear ideas about.
So I guess the interest I hear is we get their perspective on all topics. All right, any other interests that we haven't talked about?
I have one more that builds a little bit on, we've talked a lot about us hearing the student perspective, but what about the students communicating back to their fellow students, the board perspective?
Yeah.
Students share with peers.
Yeah, they would like almost serve as advocates of the district and telling the story of our district to their peers.
So another interest would be students serve as advocates.
And along both those lines, I think we've implied it, and maybe I can't recall if we've labeled it that way, but in a sense, cultivating these student leaders. Like I think if we look at having met a lot of student board members, I know, Brian, you have, I have, when we go to these conferences, the student board members have had that experience of being at the table, so they really have been cultivating these leadership skills, right? So, yes, cultivating leaders.
I'm going to lift something from your intro, Dr. K, and put it up here as an interest in that we're always, as a board, looking for ways to strengthen our relationship with the community. And I think this kind of program could do that. I'm thinking of advocacy others are talking about. So I think that's an interest.
It would also help our goal of cultivating a sense of belonging and a culture of belonging among our students, because they'll feel valued and like they're having an impact.
And the word I was thinking of to go along with what you both said, Greg and Melissa, is kind of nurturing ownership in their school district, right? We're here to support them. This is their school district as students.
So kind of an observation, but high school districts do this through a student council, right? So just a, just a thought. I don't know where I'm going with that. I'm not necessarily suggesting but a student council could be a solution or an alternative to having a singular student board member, kind of along the lines of the other one that you can have school representation, but if you wrap up a lot of our interests in what a high school district who typically has one, the student council is much more student and school oriented and organizing activities and event planning, and there would be more of a tie to the board if we had a school student council. Not that we need a student council to achieve our interests, but just kind of a thought.
So let's transition it to solutions. So we have listed out, I think, a phenomenal number of great interests. I'll leave them here so you can see most of them from where you're seated. So what are some solutions? One, we would have students here at the board meeting. Two, outside the board meeting, which could be a student council. We could have individual building representatives, so in this case we could have 9. We could have them stay the whole meeting as a solution. So they would be combined with some, like that implies they're already here, then you can stay the whole time. Another option would be they come here and they are only here for a portion of the meeting. Then we also have an option for student council. I guess that implies somehow they're getting information here, almost like ABC 25 did today. Like Gina sends a report, somebody reads it. But there's other solutions on how we bring that voice here. Are there other solutions we want to think about and write them down here? We're not married to anything. We're not committing to anything. But what are some other ways student voice can get here?
I think we all have different board duties, and there could be a board member that is really the point person in connecting with this initiative and could work with the superintendent to identify, let's say if it wasn't the whole meeting, maybe identify which topics, you know, that, and we already know what topics, some topics farther out are coming, they could be identified and a little planning, and we could even construct, you know, lay out the agenda in such a way that maybe those are programmed early so that if they're coming to the meeting, it could be, you know, the first hour or something, you know what I'm saying? So, sorry, that was a hodgepodge, Dr. K.
I think I got a couple things.
Okay.
Yeah, I heard you.
So I have board members appointed to help student board members, and there's a variety of ways of doing that, and then reorganize the topics with the assumption that you're putting some of the student-focused ones maybe earlier in the agenda. Got it?
And then we've seen from area school districts, right, and we're always learning from each other as far as solutions go. You know, we're a K-8, so there's 7th graders and 8th grade student kind of representatives who are possibly become student board members representing their peers. That's number one. And then there's principal advisory groups that have more students serving with the principal, and then one person is then the liaison going back to the board to report back in a sense. And then there's superintendent advisory groups, right, that they may be from our 9 schools funnel into a superintendent advisory group, and then there's that 1 or 2 leaders who come and share back to the board, so we're hearing it from their perspectives and the student leadership and everything that we're talking about. And then I'm going backwards from solutions to interest, right? There's this piece of civic literacy, right? If they're not at the table here, there's many, many community members that we know, and I'll be one of them. Not everybody knows that there's a school board that exists to govern the school. So by really having the students here in the boardroom for the first 30 minutes or first hour, then they're really getting to see and having a hands-on civic literacy. And as an education institution, we know that students learn by doing, right? So that piece of solution, really having them in the room for whatever proposed time. So I threw a lot at you there.
I wrote down another interest, civic literacy. You can't see it from where you're at, but it's recorded. Any other solutions to bring the voice here?
I was thinking, we were talking earlier about staff satisfaction surveys, and I know that the students take the 5 Essentials survey. We as a board could look at the data from the most recent 5 Essentials and perhaps choose some key topics or areas where we want to gather more information from students at the schools so that we can at least give them some sort of guidance or focus as to what sort of topics they may want to bring to us.
I don't know if this captures it, so correct me, Kevin. Select topics to focus student topics of interest? Ish?
So, yeah, so, and again, 5 Essentials was just an example. There might be other formats.
Sure.
But I was just thinking that as a jumping off point of if we see like there's a specific area for growth, for student satisfaction, or for, you know, student relationships, or whatever it is that we see is an area we want to improve in the 5 Essentials survey results.
Based on what the students provided us.
Right.
Follow.
we could use those as kind of guideposts to help the kids
Sure.
brainstorm topics that they want to bring to us.
Good. Let's go
Mine is
final minute.
Mine's kind of an interest/solution. I am interested in involving as many students as we can. So any sort of group, like the principal advisory or the student council, that then funnels in versus having one child per each school. I think somehow involving anyone who would like to be a part of this in some way, not the chosen few.
So I'm not going to end it, but what I am going to do is add to what you're saying. So if we were to say that this solution is a priority, you eliminate some of the other solutions. So one of the next steps we'll take is prioritizing interests and solutions, because some of these, if we prioritize them, are going to rule out some of the other solutions. Vice versa, I think many of the interests can probably survive with a lot of these solutions, which we have not vetted them, but they feel pretty good. So I think the interests are going to survive with a lot of these solutions. But I do already see some solutions are completely different than others. So not that this is the last time we can add to it, but are there any other solutions you're interested in adding while we're here?
Yeah, one of the solutions I was thinking of is that then our students here in Arlington Heights, District 25, right, like we're in this ecosystem, by becoming student board members, they then are associated, because there's a National Student Board Members Association called the NSBMA that formed 2 years ago, and they're spectacular students. They're middle schoolers and high schoolers and even elementary schoolers. We've met these leaders that come to these conferences at the state level and national level. So then our students get to grow their vantage point in being part of this larger state and national ecosystem, to working and talking to their colleagues across the country and the state. So just like we are learning from them, they get to interact with folks beyond District 25 borders. So a solution would be being part of this membership of this association and growing as global leaders here.
I think I captured it. And I questioned whether that was a solution or not. But I think it is, because if you want them to be part of a larger organization, then they have to be student board members. One solution could be we just a student come from one building every month or 2 buildings every month, and they just share, like we have the Teachers Union, ABC 25, and the Council of PTAs. They just share. It doesn't mean they're sitting here and they're officially board members, and you could have different kids cycle through who's the one representing. That would never then get to this point. So I like what we have. I think there's a lot of great interests, a lot of great solutions, and I think we just need to vet out which ones are going to be priority for us, starting with interests. What are our favorite interests? So we're going to do an activity where we figure out what are our favorites, and then which solutions match our favorite interests to get us closer to what we really want. So this will be fun. I will put this together and send it to us as a culminating, and then we can add to it one more time. So no decisions, we're just processing, brainstorming. Any questions before we close this?
I don't have a question, but I have a comment. Is that okay?
I'm nervous.
I just want to thank you, Dr. K, for helping us kind of distill our thought process and thinking. We've been thinking about this for a little bit and tossing ideas, so helping us percolate our ideas in this fashion is super helpful for me, and I'm sure my board friends feel the same way.
And if I could just add one thing, because it just occurred to me as Anisha was sharing the importance. Today's Chicago Tribune had an article on CPS students on the school boards and the importance of their voice and how their leadership has grown to take them into wonderful places. So it does have fabulous benefits to the students that are participating.
Yeah, one interest we can add on there later is resume builder. It's a great one. All right, any other questions on this topic? All right, you are welcome. Ha! For those of you participating on negotiations, you'll see a similar process, which will be great. The next topic that I have is information for first reading of policies. Just checking the agenda to make sure that's where I'm at, and it is. So let me go over the policies that the policy committee discussed. We had Press 120. There were 33 policies and one exhibit that we reviewed. The committee unanimously agreed to advance many of these to first reading without any changes or additional information. There were 3 policies and one exhibit that the committee unanimously agreed to move forward but had questions. So of the 33 policies and exhibits, there were 3 policies and one exhibit that we wanted to ask some questions. So I'm prepared just to share what those questions were and the outcomes of those. And assuming that this addresses the question from the policy committee, we can decide to move all of these forward for first reading. So the first question came out of 4:80, accounting and audits. The date was added of October 15th, and the question was, is that going to impact our finances, our finance department, and Stacy specifically? Will that date cause any concerns with getting the information in time? So what Stacy shared is that the auditors actually have the ability to request an extension all the way through December 15th, and she said that it's a common practice that the auditors actually do ask for the extension. So that isn't changing and is still part of the policy. So that overall is not a concern for us or Stacy and her department. The next one where there was a question was 7:150, agency and law enforcement requests. The committee discussed the title of our SROs, the school resource officers, because I'd shared information with them that when I saw this policy come out, I asked the SROs and Chief Pecora if there's something we need to do as a result. And what they shared is kind of a surprise to me, that their title is officially not school resource officer. Both John and Chris have the title of community and school safety coordinators. I still see them and utilize them as school resource officers, but by title through the Arlington Heights Police Department, their real title is community and school safety coordinators. So the policy itself is not impacted because they don't have the title of school resource officer. Many schools, as you know in the area, do hire their own school resource officers. This policy would impact them directly. It doesn't impact us because their title is slightly different and they're not directly hired by District 25. So that policy is okay to move forward. The next one was 7:180, prevention of and response to bullying, intimidation, and harassment. The committee wanted to know there's an anonymous phone number you can call. I guess the phone number's not anonymous, the phone number's out there, but you're supposed to be able to remain anonymous if you use this phone number. So we called the phone number to see where does it go, and it's Diane Kafka's private line in her office. So I tried with multiple phones to call that number to see what shows up on the caller ID, and it never revealed a name of the phones that I used. So I will keep practicing to see if names ever show up on her caller ID, but of the phones I tried, no name ever showed up. So it appears as if it still remains anonymous, but when you're calling the phone, you need to talk to someone. So right now, Diane either is present or a voicemail is left, and it can be left with her. So the good news is the caller ID doesn't give away who the caller is. And that was the concern from the committee. And the last one was an exhibit 2:125, resolution to, I totally misspelled that, so that's kind of funny. Resolution to regulate expense reimbursements. And this was a concern with how large the amount was within this policy. So it was related to the amount that's listed in it. If you read the policy quickly, it looks like it's an amount that is available to school board members for professional learning. Well, it's over $500,000, so we knew it wasn't just for board members. So we asked Stacy to tell us how that number is figured out and what goes into that number. So I'm happy to report that that number is our total budget for all professional development. Board members, administrators, teachers, teaching assistants, that is our total professional development budget. So it has some title funds in there, but it has the funds we have to pay NSSCO for their professional development that they provide us. So that's why that number is massive. Does that make sense? So those were the questions that came out of the policy committee. Are there any questions? All right.
So then those will come back next month at second reading, right?
Those will all come back for second reading, correct. All right, moving on. So this next one is an action item, letter E, resolution authorizing transfer of engagement and appointment of legal counsel.
Thank you, Dr. K. Can we have a motion, please?
Mr. President,
Yes, Kevin.
I recommend that the Board of Education approve the resolution authorizing transfer of engagement, appointment of legal counsel.
Thank you, Kevin. A second.
Second.
Thank you, Anisha. Dr. K.
Yeah, so this one should be quick. We have a great relationship with Kriya Bocek. They've been a long-time member of ours that we use for a lot of special education, but we've used them for a variety of other topics like personnel, but they're not our primary law firm that we go to for personnel. We use them mostly for special education. So this resolution allows the district to maintain continuity of legal representation because Kriya Bocek is combining with Triple F, Fagan, Friedman, and Full Frost. So effective January 1st, earlier this month, the same attorneys will be working with our school district. They will just be under a new name. So this resolution just makes it official that we can continue to work with them. There's no change in fees for this as well. I could see that coming in the future, but currently there's no change.
All right, thank you, Dr. K. Any questions? All right, Alana, if you could please call the vote.
Cerniglia?
Yes.
Neerman?
Yes.
Tranter?
Yes.
Jogi?
Yes.
Scapalato?
Yes.
Michael?
Yes.
Buchberger?
Yes.
Thank you, Lana. The motion carries 7-0. Dr. K, you want to continue?
I do. Letter F, I have a resolution. This is the first time I'm bringing it to you guys, so this is just an information item and a conversation for us to have. The resolution is calling on Cook County Treasurer and other Cook County officials responsible for the issuance of property tax bills to resolve systemic issues. So I know some of you are aware that the Cook County tax bills were late, which caused us to rely heavily on our savings that Stacy has made sure we have available in order to pay all of our bills and make sure School District 25 continues to operate and run without any interruption. We have not had to issue tax anticipation warrants, but it was something we started to talk about, whether we would need to if we never got any tax money in the month of January. So I'm happy to report we have had some taxes come to us, but the unfortunate part is because the taxes came so late, we lost a significant amount of money in lost interest income. Somewhere between $600,000 and $800,000 worth of lost interest income. And we are just one school district. So the purpose of this resolution, let me read some of them, is this resolution is fundamentally about stewardship of resources. So as a board and administration, we have a responsibility to protect the public resources entrusted to us and to ensure those resources are available, predictable, and aligned to student learning. One of the core strategic plan commitments is the stewardship of resources goal, which calls on us to allocate resources effectively and equitably and to explore financial strategies that ensure long-term stability for our students and staff. Timely and reliable property tax revenue is essential to fulfilling that commitment. The delayed issuance of second installment property tax bills disrupted a predictable funding cycle that school districts rely on to operate responsibly. For District 25, as I mentioned, this delay resulted in a loss of more than between $600,000 and $800,000 in lost income, interest income, funds that would otherwise support classrooms, staffing, and student services. So while we were able to manage cash flow, these kinds of systemic failures place unnecessary strain on districts and taxpayers, specifically ours. Every dollar lost is a dollar not working on behalf of our students and staff. So this resolution reinforces our expectation that county systems function in a way that supports and not undermines the public education. This action also is an example of thoughtful advocacy. We are calling for accountability, collaboration among our county offices, the permanent safeguards so that this does not happen again. That aligns with our responsibility to speak up when external systems negatively impact our ability to serve our students. Lastly, adopting this resolution sends a clear message that District 25 will continue to be proactive, transparent, and student-centered in its financial leadership. Stewardship is not passive. It requires us to act when systems fail and to advocate for solutions that protect our community and our future. So at this time, I'm not asking you to take action. I do want you to read the resolution, and I'm just curious if there's any questions or things you guys would like to share. So the staff would like to bring this back at the next board meeting for us to take action. We can still continue to talk about it as well. Any questions? All right. Can I move on to letter G? All right. So this next one is also a resolution that is not up for vote. So this is a topic I wanted to bring for the board to consider. It's a resolution prohibiting the use of school district property for civil immigration enforcement, staging areas, processing locations, or operation bases. So a couple of topics I want to share. It was back in January of 2025, so a year ago, I shared a letter with the community regarding we are committed to a safe and supportive school environment, and that went out to the whole community and talked about schools should be a safe haven for all students, where students should be able to learn without fear. We gave clear guidance to our front office staff, building administrators on how to handle situations where should immigration or customs enforcement, ICE, or other immigration representatives arrive on school property, what our priority remained to ensure that every child and family feels safe and valued and supported in our schools. So that was back in January of 2025. So a year ago, this topic started to brew in our community. Staff were asking questions about how to protect students. Staff were asking questions about what happens if they come to our front door at the front office. So we needed to give some direction and some information out, not only to our staff, but also to our community, just to ensure they were aware, we know what's happening, and we want to make sure everyone feels safe and protected. Now come the fall of this year, and the fall of this year, it started to hit a little more locally. So I had parents in the Westgate community, parents in the Patton community, and parents in the Dryden community calling me when ICE was, I guess, anticipated that it was ICE in the area, because no one ever talked to the supposed ICE agents in the neighborhood, but they assumed it was ICE agents. So they called me and asked, I guess they were informing me. And then I took that information as I needed to act. So I would drive into the neighborhood and try to find where they said they were located. And I just wanted to ask some simple questions. That's probably very naive of me, but I did have an interest in just asking a question like, are you anticipating coming near the school at all? 3 out of 3 chances I never found them. But what I did find was a lot of community members out in those 3 areas, just outside. So I knew they saw me. It felt as if they were expecting me possibly in the area because they had text chains in these communities, and I'm sure it's bigger than the 3 I just mentioned. But these are 3 specific examples where community members, parents, were contacting the school principal calls me, and then I would drive out to this area and just look and try to engage in a conversation. But 3 out of 3, by the time I got there, all of the vehicles that we suspected were ICE were already gone. So what I wanted to bring to you guys to consider was a resolution to support not just the 3 communities that have already tried to involve me in this process, but the whole district, all 9 schools, on behalf of the whole community, to make sure they know where we stand on this topic. So I just wrote a couple things that I wanted to mention and then open it up for conversation. So I wanted to be clear at the onset that this item is being presented for information and discussion only. No action is being requested this evening. The purpose is to ensure that the board has a shared understanding of the draft resolution that's in diligent. I want you to be aware of its intent, how it aligns with our district values and strategic plan. So why is this being brought forward? This draft was developed to provide clarity regarding the appropriate use of District 25 property and to proactively address situations that could disrupt school operations or impact student and staff well-being. The connection to our strategic plan, the resolution aligns closely with multiple areas of our strategic plan, particularly our family and community goal, learning environment, and high-quality staff goals. At its core, this is about maintaining schools as places of learning, belonging, and stability for students and families. The focus is on students' safety and learning. So schools function best when students and families feel safe and supported. The intent here is intended to be a practical use, ensuring that district property is not used in ways that could interfere with instruction, create disruption, or introduce safety concerns during the school day. What this resolution does and doesn't do. It's important to note that the current draft resolution does not interfere with lawful judicial warrants or criminal law enforcement. That would be illegal. I don't want any of us, I don't want any of our staff to interfere with any lawful judicial warrants or criminal law enforcement. It also does not restrict lawful use of the district property unrelated to civil immigration enforcement, staging, or operations. It simply clarifies boundaries around school-controlled spaces. Another important aspect is providing clarity for staff. The draft outlines clear reporting procedures so employees are not placed in uncertain situations and can focus on their primary responsibility, serving the students. This evening's discussion allows board members to ask questions, offer feedback, and reflect on the draft. Based on that input, we can determine whether revisions are needed or whether this item should return at a future meeting for consideration. So bringing this forward reflects our commitment to thoughtful governance, transparency, and alignment with our strategic plan. And obviously, I appreciate the board's willingness to listen and engage in this difficult topic that's currently around us. And I look forward to the discussion. 2 more points I wanted to make. We continue, even though I feel like it's losing attention, we continue in every district dish to put information out about our commitment to every child's right to education. So you may or may not see it, but it's always been there since, I believe, this topic continued to address us in this area at the start of the school year. And there's links to our letter that we sent out back in January of 2025, and then links to Know Your Rights Toolkit. So our community has access to resources. So I feel like this is a next step in showing our community that we care for them and about them, and that our schools remain and continue to be safe spaces for students, staff, and families. So time for us to ask some questions and have a conversation.
Thank you, Dr. K, for sharing all that and for framing the discussion. Let me open it to my colleagues. What questions, thoughts do you have on the topic?
I just have a comment. I just wanted to thank Dr. K for your leadership, taking comments from our community and acting on them. So I just wanted to thank you for working towards making sure all our students feel safe coming to school. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Melissa.
To add to what Melissa said, again, thank you, Dr. K. Thank you for listening to the community. for ensuring that our students, our staff, and their families feel safe. As a school board member, I feel that it is my moral responsibility to ensure that our staff, our students, and their families feel that our buildings and our properties are safe places. Without that feeling, if they do not feel safe coming to school, if they're feeling intimidated or that they're not in a safe zone, they're not going to be able to concentrate and participate fully in a nurturing space and environment. So I support this 100%.
Thank you, Deb.
Mr. President?
Yes, Kevin.
Ditto to everything Deb just shared. I also agree with all of the rationale that Dr. K provided us and appreciate that. Another thing that I consider when thinking about this topic is that in, I think it was November, the Village of Arlington Heights passed a similar resolution about village property. And while we are a separate organization than the village board, all District 25 property is located within the village and an extension of village public spaces. So I think it is a logical next step in terms of local governance as well as in terms of safety and security for students, staff, and families.
Thank you, Kevin.
Mr. President, if I
Yes,
could add on
please.
to what Kevin said. As an employee of the village, I'm also aware that the village is using the same SRP, I love you guys, protocol that we have in the district, so that our entire community knows what to expect. And I think there is great power and consistency across the village.
Thank you, Liz.
If I could share, I'm glad you brought up that the village did something similar in November. If you haven't listened to that conversation or you didn't listen to that conversation, I do feel like it is a healthy conversation to listen to for how the police would be able to enforce, if at all, if ICE was to be using any of the public properties, whether it's the street, the sidewalk, parking lots. It was a healthy conversation to listen to afterwards, to listen to what authority really there is or is not in enforcing any legal civil immigration activities that are taking place on the public property. So I know we are not that entity. I just thought it was a benefit to listen to their conversation about enforcement. And enforcement for us would be making sure that staff just notify whoever is in charge. So if it was a school system, they would notify the principal at that building, and then the principal would notify me. It doesn't mean we would always call the police. And if the police were ever to be called, what the police would do is just confirm that they are ICE agents. Depending on what's happening, they may have no authority to remove them from the spaces. So I just wanted to make sure it's clear. Like, this is a statement of support in trying to make sure our community and students and staff feel safe, but I don't want to give the false impression that we can kick people off of our property that are doing civil immigration work. So I know it can be a little confusing, so possibly between now and the next board meeting, if you haven't, I would suggest you listen to the village conversation. It just provides some context. We don't have police officers in School District 25. We don't employ them, but the village does. So I think it's a healthy conversation to consider listening to before we consider taking action next month.
That being said, when we were reading through the resolution calling on the Cook County Treasurer's Office, you stated, we have a duty to speak up when outside systems negatively affect our students, and that, based on community input, is definitely happening. So I think it is still a worthwhile resolution, personally.
And a good connection.
Other thoughts or comments? If I can, I'm going to share that I did watch that meeting, and it was very interesting, and to watch the public comments. And Dr. K, you spoke to the enforcement piece, and that was a big question that came up from trustees, and some members of the public spoke to that. And I think a casual reader might look at that and go, well, we're right, we can't stop them. So why would we do something like this? And so I took some time to reflect on that, and I think really, if to address that question, we have to think about the impact, right? I think it's natural to think, well, if we can't stop something from happening, why would we move forward with this? And I would say, look at the impact of the resolution. Resolution, Randy Reckloss said this at their meeting, it's a statement of intent. It's a statement of our values. So by this resolution, we're stating our values to our community, okay? And it also, we know this from the many presentations we've done, Anisha and Kevin and Dr. K, that when we make a resolution, it creates the space for the superintendent to act. And in this case, you've already taken action, so now the board is putting our stamp of approval on what the steps you've already taken for our community. And really, it as all of us that have spoken so far have talked about, it impacts our community. There are people watching, I'd like to think there are, and it matters, the statements that we make here as we express our values. So, and we have so many guiding documents that really lead us to this moment. We have the resolution to eliminate racial injustice. We have policy 132. We have a strategic plan, and we have our board member oath. And if any of you, I have the highlights, and I won't, spend the time now, but all of those lead us to here. Like others have said, it's about our responsibility. We have a responsibility to taxpayers, to our families, to our students, to our staff, to speak up and state where we are at in terms of these issues that are in our community. But some of that stuff, when we talk about enforcement, and even the impact or the resolution, the wording, after thinking about it, I want to tell you that I took a step back and really, besides the technical reasons and the language, I think it's important because we care. Because we care about our students and the family and community, and it doesn't matter who you are. It doesn't matter where you were born, what the circumstances are that brought you to us, what you look like, that we care about you. And I think we can hold that thought in our head and still uphold the local, state, and federal laws. Those two things are not incompatible, and I think we can make a statement that this is how we do it. So that's really it. That's where I landed after thinking a lot and watching all those discussions. Other thoughts? So given what I've heard, I think we have a consensus to bring it back. Unless I'm still open if there's others that want to say anything else to the effect. Okay. So Dr. K, I think we'll bring this back.
Sounds good.
Next month.
Thank you.
And so that brings us to our community input, second community input section. Lana, we don't have any blue cards. So we're at the future agenda items. Are there any agenda items from our members that we need to bring forward to discuss at a future meeting? All right, seeing none of those, the board will be returning to closed session to continue working on the same topics announced earlier for closed session. The board cannot take any action during closed, and we will not take any action when we return to open session afterwards. So can I please have a motion to return to closed sessions for the reasons previously noted?
Mr. President?
Yes, Kevin.
I recommend that the board return to closed session to discuss the previously mentioned topics.
Thank you, Kevin. A second, please.
A second?
Thank you, Anisha. Lana, if you could please call the roll.
Neerman,
Yes.
Tranter,
Yes.
Jogi,
Yes.
Scapalato,
Yes.
Michael,
Yes.
Buchberger,
Yes.
Cerniglia.
Yes. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, staff, for being here, and we'll see you next month.